Shalom Aleichem. So I want to share with you a quick dvar Torah with a beautiful story about Parsha Neetzavim. My name is Rav Kalman Flax. And it all began, the story begins about 10 years ago. And every Friday to this day, I start off my Friday to prepare myself for Erev Shabbos. I play ultimate frisbee and Gan soccer. And usually I bike there, or I scoot there nowadays, or I electric bike there. Saves me a lot of time. And about 10 years ago, on one random weekday, after davening, I saw this great sefer, and it was called Hashgacha, or Divine Providence, and it goes in depth to how Hashgacha works. And it seemed like an amazing read, and it happened to be right before Rosh Hashanah. So I wanted to squeeze in a few more minutes of learning. So I said, you know what? I'll leave a bit earlier, and I can walk the whole way and learn. And the whole way back, I can read this sefer. And it'll be a little bit more effort, but it'll be worth it. Great. So I'm walking there and learning about divine providence, Hashgacha, and it's an amazing learn. You really should read the book. And I get to Frisbee, and I have an email. So I check my iPhone. It's from my student, Ben, who I haven't heard from years. And in the top of the message, it says, Hashgacha, Divine Providence, the very same name of the book that I had just been reading. And I was blown away. I was like, that's crazy. I'm reading a book about divine providence. And here he starts out his email with the words divine providence. At the end of the day, what happens, I send a daily halacha, and the halacha happened to connect to something that he was struggling with. But I guess the question I want to jump into today is, was that just a coincidence? Just happened to be, I was reading a book, and it happened to be that was what his email was about. And I was primed or looking for something that was connected, or is there something deeper going on here? And that brings me to this week's Parsha. So, as usual, when you take a deep look at the Parsha, you notice a lot of questions. So as I was reading the Parsha this week, I noticed Pasuk Yud Bet, right at the beginning of our Parsha, God said He's going to make a brit with the Jewish people. In order to establish you as a nation. And He will be to you as a God. So at first glance, this is kind of a strange thing to say. In other words, if we accept upon ourselves to become part of the Jewish people, to do the covenant, to fulfill the mitzvahs, so then God will be a God for us. And if we don't accept upon ourselves to do the mitzvahs, will then God not be a God? Isn't God's power disconnected from whether we do the mitzvahs or not? What does it mean? Only then will He be an Elohim. And immediately, I thought back to another strange situation. And like a good rabbi, we're going to answer one question with another question. And that goes back to chapter 28 of Bereshis, the story when Yaakov is running away from his brother Esau. And the Torah recounts that Yaakov takes a neder. In Vayidar Yaakov, it's in Pasuk Chaf, neder, Imiel Elokim imadi, if God will be with me, Ushmarani, Baderech, and He will guard over me, Asher Nechel Lechem, and Noten Li Lechem Echol, Ubeg Labosh, and He'll give me bread and clothing. Then what? Sheshavti al Beit Avi, and I go back to my father's house, Vaya Hashem li lelokim, and only then will God be for me an Elokim. Well, then God will be my God. And again, many Mefarshim ask, what, only then will He be God? Isn't He God regardless of Yaakov's Tanai? But perhaps the answer is simple. When we mean by li lelokim is not on a philosophical level. Philosophically, God is God regardless of our actions. But in terms of how much we feel like He is our God, That is the question that is being asked here. If we are loyal to the covenant, then we will feel that connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. If we do our actions, our hishtadlus, then we will feel our relationship with our Kadosh Baruch Hu. And this reminded me of a very, very famous Rambam. The Rambam, in his Guide for the Perplexed, philosophizes about the concept of Hashgacha pratos, of divine providence. And the Rambam explains that God creates the world al derech hateva. There's a natural way which the world functions. Gravity, v'chule. Yet, a person sometimes will have some divine help, or Hashgacha pratos. But it's not automatic. It's dependent on our consciousness, our awareness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and our actions, I would add. Then, in proportion to the amount of awareness that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world, then you will get that divine help, that Hashgacha pratos. But different people will be running on their different systems. And I would add, I believe the same person in different situations may have different levels of Hashgacha in his life. When you're connected to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, then you'll see more miracles in your life. And when you're disconnected from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, then you'll see less. And you may be working through a different system. You'll be working through the system of Teva instead of the system of Hashgacha pratit. And perhaps that's what this week's Parsha is telling us. If we are loyal to the covenant, if we treat HaKadosh Baruch Hu as a real life entity, then we will have that personal relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We will see the love that he has for us. But if we treat him distantly, then midah k'neged midah, he will, so to speak, distance himself. So during these times, these days of divine closeness, of Anila Dodilo Dodili, of Hamelech Basadeh, perhaps this is the first thing that we could be working on during these days preparing for Rosh Hashanah. To see Hashem's divine hand and to form a strong, deep relationship with him through simple acts like talking to him in a real way, and just creating this relationship. Shivti Hashem l'negi tamid, not in a theoretical level, but in a real life relationship type of way. And then perhaps that is also part of the Rosh Hashanah judgment that we are all, about to go through. Not just technically will we live or will we die, but will we live a life of dveikut, of true chaim, which is V'atem dveikim Hashem Elokechem chaim kolchem hayom. Will we live a life of divine consciousness? And I believe, at least my experience have shown me that, as the Baal Shem Tov says it, Hashem tzilcha. Hashem reacts to you. Hashem is your shadow. When you reach out towards the Kadosh Baruch Hu and treat him like a real entity, then he reaches back. So Bezrat Hashem, during these beautiful days before Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, take the divine opportunity. Hashem is so close. Reach out to him, talk to him, schmooze it out wherever we're standing. And Hashem should help us to feel that divine closeness and to receive his heavenly love and his heavenly hand. Hashem should bless you with an amazing day. You should see divine miracles. And I really hope you enjoyed this dvar Torah. Be'ezrat Hashem, if you did enjoy it, please share it with anyone who wants. And you can send me an email at keithflax@gmail.com if you have any questions, thoughts, or cons, or maybe one day I'll get your email and you'll be the story for another great dvar Torah. Be'ezrat Hashem. And have a Shana Tova. You should be written and inscribed in the book of life.